Hi everyone! Today I am doing a slightly different kind of video away from the piano to talk about a topic that I know a lot of you are interested in, and that is competitions. So I think competitions are a great way of building your resume and gaining performance experiences. They also provide opportunity for the students to work on a set of pieces for an extended period of time. So during hours and hours of preparation, they usually take their technique, their musicianship, and their musical understanding to the next level. So by the end of the competition, usually students are a better pianist, slightly more advanced pianist than they were before. I certainly did many of them growing up. Every year, since the age of 6, I did one or two. And I have to say, each one was a life experience. And I had to learn to discipline myself. I had to accept the results as they were given to me, whether it was a first prize or elimination in the preliminary round. And also I had to cope with many different kinds of emotions, pride, joy when I won, and then sadness, failure, and feeling miserable when I didn't. So I think every single one of them really strengthened me, not just as a pianist, but as a human being. About 2 weeks ago, I flew to Houston to be one of the two judges at the Houston Music Teachers Association competition. Dr. Diego Caetano and I deliberated in the final round, judging students from age 6 to 14. Each age category had 2 assigned repertoire, so we listened to 3 to 5 students in each age category. So these are the students that made it into the finals, and they were given first, second, third prizes, and depending on how many students there were honorable mentions as well. And it was a very smooth experience because Dr. Caetano and I agreed on all of the results. It was pretty clear who stood out. When I reflect on it, we point to 3 or 4 different qualities that made certain contestants stand out from the crowd, and I wanted to share that with you. Obviously, this is just my opinion, and I don't represent the opinions of all the judges, of all the pianists in piano competitions. But it'll at least provide you with a glimpse into a judge's mind and how they think on the other side of the competition. So if you're preparing for a competition and you're kind of sick of practicing and you need a break, then keep watching this video. So how can you be a successful contestant in a competition? Number 1, don't give the judges a reason to eliminate you. You're giving the judges a reason to eliminate you if you're doing something obviously wrong. Let's say you play really well for the most part, but for that allegretto movement of Beethoven's sonata, you take it to a vivace because you just felt so much joy and excitement playing that movement. Or you took it so slow, andante, because you feel like it's more melancholy. Well, that's not what Beethoven intended, and some judges might get really bothered by it, and you will be remembered, and not in a good way. And even if you play really well for the most part, that could get on their nerves or possibly even offend them, and that's a reason to eliminate you if all the other contestants are kind of shoulder to shoulder in terms of their level. If you feel so strongly about an interpretive idea and you must do it that way, be on the safer side of things when you're competing in a competition. This might be totally different in an audition setting when they're also looking for the potential for that pianist to grow, but in a competition setting, it's subjective. You have to consider that they are human beings too, so you don't want to be remembered for something like abnormal, something completely different than how it's done traditionally. And so I encourage you to listen to many different interpretations, work towards an interpretation that is more or less traditional. If you're playing Bach with full fortissimo sound, or anything stylistic that's not very conventional, I would stay away from it in competition setting. Find a way to be individualistic and project your personality without ignoring the composer's intentions. Okay, number 2, Play like a big pianist, and you have to be willing to exaggerate a little bit on the stage. When we're practicing, we're so used to being in a small space. Even when you're playing in a studio for your teacher, they're in an intimate distance, so you can feel and hear everything that you are doing at the piano. But it's a completely different environment. Usually you're playing in a more resonant, bigger space, so you have to play big. And I don't mean that you have to play fortes into fortissimo, or I don't mean that you have to play everything loud. I mean that you have to be willing to exaggerate your expressions a little more to communicate, to reach the audience, including the judges. If you have an allegro movement, feel bright inside and communicate that emotion to the audience. If you have something written dolce, don't just play quietly, but figure out a way to communicate the emotion of sweetness to the audience. So using legato and different sound quality, colors. I think it's really important to project the expressions and communicate the emotions to the audience rather than just thinking about your dynamics. And those pianists that not only play well but actually communicate to the audience, they will be remembered in a good way this time. This needs a little bit of practice. Of course, it's great if you can get some hall time, before the competition in space that you will actually be playing. But also, using your imagination helps a lot too. When you're in a practice room, imagine that you are playing in a big hall with a full audience, and you're actually performing. Practice like you're performing is what my dad used to say when I was young. It depends on the age, but playing well, but playing like you're in a little box or like you're playing for yourself is not enough. Number 3 has to do with structure and flow. I bet so many of you run through your pieces over and over again, but not many of you run the whole program. That's including all the pieces in your actually playing on the stage. I see so many students just come out on stage, immediately start playing one piece, and then go to the next piece as though it was a attacca movement. That kind of presentation does not really command attention from your audience and neither the judges. You want to settle yourself down, get them to listen to you before you play. I know you're nervous, and like a second on the stage feels like an eternity, but practice calming yourself down and settling in before you play and in between pieces at the least. You're playing like something joyful in the beginning, let's say, and you're going into a darker piece, then you don't want to go attacca. You just take a proper acknowledgement of the pieces, get yourself ready for the next piece, and then when you're ready, when there is absolute silence, then you begin. If you just come out and play from the beginning to the end, it's like reading like a whole book from the beginning to the end, perfectly well articulated, but just reading through on and on and on and on without stopping. So you have to control the flow of your program, and it really makes a difference in how you command attention from the listeners and the judges. My last point has to do with stage presence. This is the thing. They see you before they hear you. So how you walk on the stage, your facial expressions, and how you bow, they form the first impression even before you start playing. When you act more confident and you act like you are very in control of the situation and you're so happy to perform for them, then it also immediately puts you in a different set of mind. So work on your stage presence, and that includes wearing something that makes you look and feel good. Practice in front of the mirror so that you see your facial expressions, and also learn to walk on the stage with confidence so that you can look like you're ready to perform for them rather than being so scared and nervous, so that you exude of confidence and not look like you're like so scared to play on the stage. It really matters. It really matters because this is a human event. You're judged by real, actual human beings. There is no replacement for practicing hard and having a good teacher working with you. Your technique and your musicianship, there are the main parts that will get you the high scores in any competition. But because this is a human event judged by human beings, you can be remembered in a good way and you can be remembered in a negative way. So what I talked about in this video, looking and acting more like a big player and willing to exaggerate your expressions a little, and thinking about the structure and flow of your entire program, stage presence, these are the vehicle that will take your hard work communicated out to the audience. And it's really important. Sometimes they can be a deciding factor in placing you the first, second, or third prize. And that's all for today. I hope it made sense to you, and I wish you the best of luck for your next competition. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.